All right, we're going to switch gears, head to Delphi, Indiana, in the murder trial against Richard Allen. It's day 3 of this trial. No cameras are allowed in the courtroom.
But our senior producer, Barbara McDonald, is there inside, and she joins us now from the phone. Barbara, let us know what you can about what happened today during the morning session.
So we heard from 2 witnesses today. The first was the first law enforcement officer who arrived at the crime scene after that volunteer searcher reported finding the bodies. And this was Carroll County Deputy Darren Giancola. And he described parking at the cemetery that was just north of the crime scene and walking straight south down from that cemetery to the creek. And he said he got to the creek where he encountered several people who were the people who had reported finding the bodies of Abby and Libby alongside that creek. And he said that on his walk down, he did not notice the bodies. But once he encountered those people and he saw the clothing in the creek, he described a multicolored T-shirt and a black and white Nike shoe that he saw in the creek. He said the searchers told him that behind him was where the bodies were. And then he got closer to that area. He said that you couldn't really see them from the creek, but as he got closer, he could. He described that Libby was found nude, Abby was clothed. He said he saw a significant amount of blood on their bodies and on the ground, and he was asked if he attempted any life-saving measures, and he said he did not because it was obvious that they were deceased. Now, the second witness, which is number 9 for the state, was Indiana State Police crime scene investigator Jason Page, and he got to the scene around 2 o'clock, he said. So the bodies were first found by that searcher at noon. Law enforcement began arriving about 12:15, and this gentleman arrived around 2 o'clock. He went through 44 images that were entered into evidence, and the first 3 were depictions that he made showing the topography of the area as well as the placement of the bodies. The rest were all photographs that he took of not only the scene, the creek, where the crime scene barrier tape was placed, but also close-ups showing how these girls were found on that February day back in 2017. There were some, I guess, privacy blockers placed over Libby's body because she was nude. So they had these black rectangles covering parts of her body for modesty, I assume. You did see a significant amount of blood on her. They also showed an area just south of where the girls' bodies were, where there was a large pool of blood. And then the tree where Libby was found was not the tree that had the blood patterns on it. That was a couple of feet away, and there was a smaller circle of blood on the ground near that tree. And they described, or this officer rather described, 2 areas on the tree that had blood. And he was able to, he knew that they had swabbed them. He photographed those areas, and they showed them to us. They did not look like blood, though, because of the material he used for testing. The blood actually looked blue in the images that we were seeing today. We're back in session at 1 o'clock, and we assume we're going to be on cross-examination with this same witness.
All right, Barbara McDonald, I'll let you get back into the courtroom. Barbara will be with us throughout the day here on Court TV with the details. And boy, it's just got to be horrible for these jurors, but the family members to see those images. It's just
so much blood. I mean, that's been part of this case where someone saw a man who they said resembled Richard Allen covered in blood, like he had been slaughtering an animal. And when you hear about how much blood was involved, it's just chilling to think about what happened in those woods.
Oh, it's just what these 2 little girls went through is just, it's hard to get your head around. Jessica Ehrlich is with us. In this case, Jessica, there is there's this sort of secrecy that's been imposed by this Judge Gall, who's up in Indiana. And I guess there's fear. Different judges have different fears about cameras and access. Some of it is because they don't want to have to be judged themselves. Some is because they're thinking from a legal standpoint it's better for. But what it's created is this. There's an undercurrent. There's some people think Richard Allen's innocent, and this is a bunch of Odinist gang members and blah, blah, blah. It is a shame that we don't get to watch this trial because, and I think at the back end, it's a shame for the state and for those investigators because concealing stuff just feels like you're hiding something for a reason, and this is one of those cases. But a day like today, boy, where Barbara describing that just gives you chills. That's where, again, I just think that this is one of those cases where letting the light in wouldn't hurt anybody, including Richard Allen and more importantly, maybe the state of Indiana.
I mean, it's also, I think the other side is that we are talking about a heinous crime that affected 2 young girls and their families, and that the concern, especially when you have juveniles, as you know, it's better, even in any sense when you're in court, you don't refer to them by name, you redact information on them. I mean, you know, my concern also is, given the amount of celebrity, if you will, around this man, that he wouldn't have copycats who try to go out and do similar things to what he's done. We see that very often. And I don't know that the full facts being, you know, revealed in this situation. I think the state has a very strong case, and it will be what it is. But there are a lot of evildoers out there, and they take things like this as a signal to be more creative or to come up with different ways to handle things. So I don't know. I mean, I think it goes sort of both ways. It's always good to have sunshine in the law, but in a situation like this, it's heartbreaking.
Yeah, every state is different and every judge is different. Now this jury, something that's different about them, they're sequestered, so they have trial on Saturday to try and use up as many days as possible. So it's shortened that they'll be in this sequestered position there in the courtroom. Let's go to WRTV. It's our affiliate there. They have a report on what all happened on Saturday for day 2 of this trial.
The second day of the Delphi double murders trial was a bit emotional for the family, as testimony described how the girls were found back in 2017. Steve Mullen, who is the current investigator for the prosecutor's office and was the Delphi police chief in February of 2017, took to the stand to describe his timeline of what happened on February 13th. He also spent some time geographically explaining areas of the trails for the jury to better understand. Jake Johns, a Delphi resident, took to the stand next and testified to discovering Libby's shirt while searching near the riverbank. The final witness to take to the stand was Pat Brown, a Delphi resident and family friends of Libby German's grandparents. He testified to his search efforts on both the 13th and the 14th. He says after getting a phone call, he headed to an area near the High Bridge, ultimately discovering the girls' bodies. And when describing the moment he came across Abby and Libby, he started crying and had to pause for a moment and said, "We found them," and added at first he thought they were mannequins. The jurors were dismissed at around 11:35. In Carroll County, Caitlin Kendall, Scripps News.
All right, thanks to WRTV for that report. Jessica, your thoughts on what they saw on Saturday, but also the idea that this is a sequestered jury. How do you think that impacts things for one side or the other?
You know, I actually like that they have the jury sequestered. I think there's a lot of information out there. And to a bit of the point that you were making earlier, this is a case that's Indiana and in a small community. And we've already heard from some of the folks that have testified in this. They knew the girls. They know the grandparents. They know the family. So anytime you're with this, this jury, they want to get them in. They want to keep them as sequestered as possible to not be influenced by outside factors and to get a resolution. It's already been, as we know, 7 years, incoming in terms of getting this from when the actual murders took place to when justice may be served. And that's a very long time. I think this community needs closure, and getting all of these things, as quickly and hopefully succinctly as possible, so that the jury cannot say that there was any sort of outside influence, and allowing them to get back to work and to their lives, and hopefully to have some sort of closure for the families of the victims going forward is very important.
Absolutely. And that Richard Allen gets a fair trial.
Absolutely. That is number one there in that
Yes.
courtroom.